my goodness. Hello, everyone. That was fast, like wicked fast, faster than I think we've ever been able to go live. It is Fierce Female Friday. And you know what? Today is a day. This week has been a week. And this month is going to be packed with delicious content. And we are getting it kicked off with one of our faves. However, before we do that, let's share what's going on in the WomanUP community and in real estate at large. So for those of you who are joining us, who are signing in, as always, let us know where you are watching from today. Are you home? Are you at the office? Are you in the mountains? Are you at the beach? What are you doing and where are you? And please, please, please share with us something good that happened this week. What was something amazing that happened in your life or your business? We want to feel the goodness. Okay, so this month's topic, as many of you heard last month as we were sharing what was happening this month, but this month's topic in the WomanUP community is building wealth and financial management. A little bit of awareness in there too. So we are gathering experts to help you not only save money, but reallocate your money and spending your money wisely this month. So you are able to build wealth, to invest in your dreams, in your business, in your life, and of course, build awareness and knowledge on how to manage your finances. So this is the topic, the number one topic actually that all of you voted for. So we are bringing in the most amazing voices for you. Also, this month is packed with things like Ledge Day, tiny little day, but it's packed with Ledge Day and association leadership meetings. So we are actually going to release the stress from the midweek meeting mania that happens this month. And we're actually going to do the wisdom series session on the last Friday of the month. So it'll be like the cherry on top of all of the content. So make sure to mark your calendar for Friday, April 30th at 2 p.m. Pacific time. Yeah. 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern time. We'll do our updates and of course, then go right into the wisdom session. So we'll have more details on that soon. And last but not least, if you personally have an amazing contact who has helped you wrangle your money and reconnect with your relationship to it, we'd love to know her. So send me a direct message, send us an email, make a comment below, and introduce us. All right, Sarah, Mike's flying over to you. What do you got for us today?
Well, I love everything that's happening here, and financial wellness is, tied very closely to owning a home. And so I think the red thread there is that we are celebrating Fair Housing Month in April. It is over 50 years, I think 53, since the Fair Housing Act was passed in 1968. And we know that realtors have not been on the right side of history, and we know that we can. And CAR is committed to righting previous wrongs and making policy that helps people who have been systematically held back from home ownership. And so we have a full court press on fair housing. We have e-blasts going out, social media going out, but I want to share with you a site that has so many resources. We have book recommendations, legal Q&As. We have our fair housing and diversity advisory form that is now with every single transaction. There's a sample form on that. We have information on buyer love letters. We have NAR's implicit bias and all kinds of resources. I'll drop that link in the chat. And I'm going to give a shout out to not only Farah Wilder, who's our chief DEI officer, but realtor.com. They they're a diamond sponsor this year, a sponsor for several years, supporting WomanUP. And the two, Marcy James and Farah Wilder, had a wonderful resource packed conversation about Fair Housing Month, and all of the resources, not only on the CAR side, but on the realtor.com side. And so we'll drop that link to the conversation in the comments as well. And thank you to all of our sponsors, but today it's Marcy James and Realtor.
Yes. Oh, I loved that conversation too. That was such a great I mean, I feel like they scratched the surface and there were so many amazing comments and viewers from the WomanUP community. It was so beautiful to see those two worlds connecting there. I love that. Yay. Yay, Marcy. Yay, Farah.
Farah's from Oakland. Farah's from Oakland. She's kind of famous here. Just saying. Representing.
I love it. Okay, so
Probably
as
listening.
yeah. Oh, good. Yay. Yeah, I think that's true. Okay, so obviously you can see our fair Leslie is not with us today. However, you're gonna love where she is. She's with her grandbaby Izzy. Woohoo! She's actually celebrating birthdays at school, right? I mean,
Better preschool.
this is so cool. I am so, so happy. She's going to have all sorts of announcements to share when she joins us next week. But if she, well, I should say when she watches the replay, hi, Leslie, we miss you. And we're so happy where you are. Ah. Okay. So let's scoot on over to one of the things that she was going to say was she's got coffee and conversations next week. She has an amazing guest with her. And I do believe that Melanie has the link to drop in the comments for all of the links to get yourself registered for that. You do not want to miss Coffee and Conversations between Leslie and Kathy. They are going to be digging into life lessons. They're going to talk a bit about one of the ones that Leslie shared in her inaugural show. And Kathy has all sorts of amazing tips and tricks and resources that she wants to talk about. So make sure you show up next Wednesday, first Wednesday of the month, 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time. All right, on to our divine guest of the hour. I feel like we need wine. Because the three of us are together. It's like, how do we not have wine? Oh my goodness. Okay. So for those of you who haven't met or had an experience with Vanessa Bergmark, you obviously heard
wine with me.
Or wine with her. Yes. She is a Brooklyn Halen, Oakland living, Angwin vacationing, amazing broker of Red Oak Realty. She owns the company. She's a CEO of the company. She's also a mother, a wife, an explorer, a student, a storyteller, a community engager, and lover of her people. Come on now. Also, she loves trees and owls. Trees and owls. Just thought you should know that. She obviously has been on the WomanUP stages many times. I believe 2017 for sure, 2019 for sure. She joined us virtually for sure. So we have had so many moments where we have heard Vanessa's story. Welcome, Vanessa.
Thank you. Wow, no one's ever talked about my owl loving in my introduction, so this is going to be fun.
Well, you know where I saw that?
Oh, it's in my Instagram.
It is. And I look at the Instagram now because, our bios are like, they're very businessy, right? Yeah. And of course, we'll drop your bio in the description and in the blog post, but like, we can all read that. This is like what you choose to say about yourself in those 140 characters is pretty cool.
Hey, you know what? I'll take it any day. I hate when it's always, this is what she's done, owl lover is who I am. It's who I am.
and wine drinker and a trailblazer.
Did I put that? I don't think I put that in my bio.
No, we're adding that right now, right here. We're adding that, right? It kind of goes with Angwin because Angwin is in Napa for those of you who don't know where Angwin is. So so first of all, let's discuss where are you right now? Because this is not a scene we've ever seen.
I am sitting I'm in Staten Island, New York. This is actually, they call it the Lost Borough, but it is the fifth borough that makes up New York City. And this is actually where I didn't grow up here, but I went to high school in Staten Island. I went to Notre Dame Academy, which is right down the block, an all-girls Catholic school. And I'm staying at my dad's house. So I'm here visiting my father. And yeah, I'm here for the next couple of days. I braved taking a flight out here, and I'm sitting here on the living room carpet taking this call. So a little bit different. Everyone thought it looked like a little bit like a haunted house, but
I love it.
It's a 1923 Tudor. Um, Basically, the funny part about this house is my parents didn't buy it until after I graduated college. But my best friend lived 4 houses down. So I spent pretty much my entire high school on this block. And then ironically, my parents bought it when I left. And I was like, seriously? Because I used to have to take the bus across to Brooklyn every day.
I love it. Oh, Gabe's in the comment string. Gabe is here. She's saying, shout out to Staten Island. Miss you, Nessa.
So if my accent comes back, it's because I'm in my hood right now.
I hope it does.
It will by the end of this call. I'm sure.
I'm ready.
And the positive, I think the positive here is that you're in New York, but we can all see you, hear you, and I'm sure you're running your company at 24 hours a day right now. Right?
No, I think that's part of the conversation we'll have is, when you hire great people. I mean, my dad is terminally ill right now, so I'm here taking care of him. And I think, it's that balance in life of just being able to dig into the parts of life that are happening, but also having a great, amazing, supportive team back home kind of running things, so we're talking and stuff, but they've got it covered. And I think that's, when you talk about leadership, when you sit back at any point, which you rarely do, you mostly lean forward in leadership, but when you do, when you realize that you are becoming or evolving into a leader, I think it's when you've really hired amazing people that you trust to do their thing. So
Absolutely.
that's why I'm able to be here.
So let's talk about that for just a minute, because that wasn't always an easy road, right? So let's talk about for me and for everybody, let's get a reminder of how your journey to this point.
Well, yes, and it's an evolving journey, right? I came to Red Oak about 12, 13 years ago now. I purchased the company in 2010, but I purchased it from the original 4 founding owners who had owned it for about 35 years. And now I've owned it for 10 years. But during that time period, when I first came on, I came on as a manager, and then I became general manager, then I became an owner, then I had a partner, then I lost a partner. I had different people leading it with me at different times. And like any good business, it's got its stories. It has its dark days and the innovative days and the revolutionary days. It's got all these chapters of running a business. But yeah, for a long time, I felt like I could never, let it out of my grasp. And I think as a leader, you start to realize that your job is not always to do everything. It's to inspire and encourage and allow them within you to evolve, right? Around those to evolve. So I've had to learn a lot. And that being the case, it was not necessarily the people before that weren't equipped to do it. I was probably not equipped to let it go. So you just get to different stages in leadership.
Oh, that's so good. I feel like I'm typing 1,000,000 miles a minute over here. I'm like, this is so good. Oh my gosh. Well, I love the personal awareness that it isn't always the other person who doesn't know how to do it well. Sometimes it is our inability to lose control over something. And I have a feeling that there's a whole lot of amens happening.
That's our, I think you said it, learning lesson, right? Like it's, Vanessa, you said something that was like, ding, 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 ding. It's like that's how we truly become leaders, is to be able to let go.
And to get I mean, the amazing part is, I think what I've realized in my journey in leadership is it's also about growing in these places where you have whether it's high conflict or high stress or high wins, right? And then how people evolve during each one of those very intense experiences, whether it's a bad experience or a good experience. And the people come out differently than they went in. And when they come out differently, they've evolved into kind of different versions of themselves as I have. So then there's this whole new sort of synergy that comes that's pretty exciting when you're with a company for a long time. As I've been here, it's going on like almost a quarter of my life. That's interesting. I think that's an interesting place to be.
Well, so you were not born into real estate. you came into real estate from another career, right?
I did. I came in from, yes, I came in from, I wouldn't call that a career. I came in from another job. This turned into a career, right?
Ah, okay. Yeah.
Working different jobs. And, and I came out of, I always like to say this because it's a defining piece of which I am now, I still pursue within working in real estate is the justice. Back in college, I was doing, my undergraduate was in criminal justice, but there was elements of restorative justice in it. So there's a lot coming to fruition with what I learned, going on 20 years, 20 plus years ago. And I'm applying into my business now.
Isn't
Yeah,
that the truth?
give them that background.
Well, we need more leaders who are focused on justice in real estate. To Sarah's point right at the very beginning, talking about fair housing and all of the, how real estate has been a big part of that, a big part of what we're experiencing inside the housing community. And, it's time to make those changes. It's time to stop pontificating on why is it the way it is. It doesn't matter why at this point. Let's fix it.
Take action.
I think it's at a good spot though, or potentially a good breaking spot in history, because we're seeing more women in leadership. And I think, frankly, that's changing a structure that has always existed, which will open up and make cracks for new structures that have never existed. And you need, this is a segue in. And I think we're at a better point right now than asking the old guard, to change what worked for a certain person, So I think it's going to be really uncomfortable. We've talked about it's going to be really uncomfortable for a lot of people and for a lot of dynamics and for a lot of companies. We're having to revisit and look at things that we weren't even aware of. But, look, now's got to be the time. Actually, the time was 75 years ago, but we'll take now.
Yeah.
Right? We'll go with now. Now works, but let's now we got to get moving.
Now's better than never.
Right.
Absolutely.
Now is better than later. Now is better than tomorrow. Now is better than a lot of things, but
That is so well, amen. Right. I think that is what we're seeing, obviously, and where Sarah and I focus a lot, right, is watching how women are stepping into leadership and where they're choosing to become leaders, right, where they're choosing to invest that leadership energy and focus. And we hear it all the time on the group, right? We hear women shouting out, I'm going for my brokerage license. I'm getting ready to open my own brokerage. And so we're seeing it start to bubble up from the birth of a lot of these brokerages. And you're right. I think a lot of, well, hopefully, we can't say women will fix it. We can say men have been running a lot of things for a really long time. And so if we look at a change being a different gender is taking over this space and a different mindset and an energy, things will change. We just simply don't know what that change will be. So, and hopefully all of the women and men who are in the WomanUP community will be part of making sure that that is a positive, just filled change. I think that's so good.
Right. Well, it's also the diversity of thought, right? Like you have a new leader and it's going to change, and having those debates, right? Like having the different voices, that's key. That in and of itself will be change forward and change for the better. I couldn't agree more, Deborah. I think that's
it's personally, I mean, there was a great article, and I'll have to shoot it to you ladies afterwards to send out, that that one of the business coaches that I work with, Dana Fontenot, she's out of the Berkeley area, and she sent it to me, and it was from the Harvard Business Review about Steve Jobs, and like actually in all of his narcissism as a truly, like he was truly an incredible leader, but he was also he could be a one-track leader, but he also then got to a stage in his evolution where he brought in people that provided conflict and created an opposite way of thinking. And that was what propelled the company forward. And then eventually he stepped out and that company was thriving and was able to grow. And leadership looks all ways. I mean, there's people coming into the brokerage. I'd say it doesn't stop once you open a brokerage, or you become a really successful brokerage, or you get on a list, or you get 500 brokerages, then it's, what does that person evolve into? Right. I mean, Deborah knows, but I just started a law program. Like, I have always been in business. I've been in business for going on almost 20 years. But one of the biggest things that I've hovered around was the understanding of how law applies to business, and obviously I realize it does, but getting to a new level of understanding, like, conflict, and understanding, mediation, understanding resolution, understanding that conflict, every time there's growth, there's conflict. Like, that's part of what I need to do now to level up into what needs to come next in leadership, right? For me.
Well, I think for
There's
many,
a law, you're in a law program?
Yeah, I started
You
lots of
getting your JD?
No, I'm not getting my JD. I'm going to make it very clear. I'm going in for conflict. I want to get better in high conflict situations. So I'm going in for my master's in dispute resolution.
well, and when Vanessa told me this, I was like, this is the perfect way to honor that justice value of hers, because she is the only person I know, I mean, literally the only person I know who, when there is something that is irritating her that's happening in politics, she reads like the court notes, or she'll read like the entire freaking contract, and she'll like be reading, and my mind is constantly in awe of how you can consume that. I mean, you consume it and you understand it. And we all
no, not always. That's why I had to go back to school. I was like, I don't know. Somebody better teach me this, because I'm getting very, very angry. Maybe I don't need to be. Maybe I'm just misconstruing it. But it's just a different, it's like a place, and I have to say, the wonderful part of the best part about it is being surrounded by people from completely different industries, completely different walks of life, completely different geographical areas, completely different backgrounds, and going into dispute with them, like going into high conflict negotiations with them. And I come out of my class at like 8 or 9 o'clock on Monday nights, and I'm like so fired up. My husband's like, oh my God, I can't believe you just did a whole Monday and you just walked out and now you want to talk, and you're like dancing around the living room, because it's inspiring. Like, it's super exciting to get to a place where there's all this new energy.
That's amazing.
Anyway, it's going to take me a very long time, but I love it. I just did my homework when I was flying out here, and I was
my homework.
I know, I'm doing homework again. Anyway,
I'm so proud of you for doing that and for getting back in there. And not only that, like, the conflict resolution is the way of the future. You can't, disintermediate conflict resolution. You can't put a computer or an app in there. It's a human trait that needs to be done by humans.
Yes.
Am I right?
It does. And the most amazing, fascinating part of it is when you can be in the middle and you could truly comprehend and understand how both sides are right and how both sides are wrong, right? Like, to be there in the middle and just be like, and it is wrong and it is right, and it is right and it is wrong. And like, somehow figuring, like, because every time I'm like, wow, that was very good. You have it's like, it's just this fascinating place to be, because high conflict to me has always been many people who know this about me will say, like, you love to fight. I don't like to fight. I do not like to fight. What I like to do is not back away, and I'm not uncomfortable by conflict. That's different than being like,
yes,
let's go
Where's
out.
the fight? Where's the fight? Where's the fight?
Let's throw back some tequila shots and start a fight tonight, girls. That is not what I'm doing. That is not how I run my business. That's not. But when I see something I disagree with, or when I see a dispute amongst colleagues or people within the industry, I'm not afraid to step in there. And that's very different than provoking. I think there's a place there of just wanting to get understanding.
Yes.
And I really, even if I have a completely opposing view, it does not mean that I cannot understand the other side's view and be like, I get it.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for me, probably not going to work for the solution, but that doesn't mean that you're wrong. Like, you're actually really right when you take that perspective.
Yeah.
But how do we get to a place of just solution?
What's sticking out for me is what you said right now and what you said earlier, and that is the growth piece. Like if you can get to the end of the conflict and everyone's better for it, like that's a win, right? Like, and I want to unpack that. Like what drove you to do that? Was that the deciding factor? Did you want growth in leadership for that? Like it's speaking to me because I think we could all learn from that, and advice for
Right.
me, for other leaders, like give us more on that.
Well, I'd say it was two initial things. One is just pure curiosity, right? It's just pure curiosity. Like, this is interesting. Every time I go near it, it's interesting. Even if it's uncomfortable, it's interesting. It's certainly not just a pleasurable experience. It's often an uncomfortable one, but it was intriguing. It was interesting. The second thing was I I just noticed even the flaw within myself of sometimes having to be right, instead of having a solution. So, I felt like it was a place of just, if I looked at my way of leading sometimes, like sometimes I'm just not always right. Sometimes I'm very convicted, like I have conviction, and
I love it.
but I'm not necessarily right. And then later on, I would realize like that I did that wrong, or I feel differently about it, or oh my God, I said that 2 years ago and I actually changed my mind. So it was this place of just like if there was a pool I could dive into, um, that was worth spending some time in, what was it? And it just felt like it was that. So it felt very serendipitous. And then I thought, oh my God, if I had to spend a whole other winter purely doing, like, because I could work all day long. Like clearly I was still going to work, but doing puzzles and like,
Yes.
just sort of like simple mind sector, like maybe watching like another thing on Netflix. It wasn't that I was doing too much of that either, but I really super just all work. There was these places, these categories that I felt like, given the opportunity to explore more, why don't you do it now? Because you have less social life, more ability to source these things.
So
Why not
true.
do that? Then, of course, I got my shot, and now the world's opening up again. And I'm like, how the hell am I going to finish this degree and learn all this? But
You will. Well, the interesting.
You're convicted.
That's yes, exactly. Well, and your lioness pride will circle around you and ask you and keep you accountable. How's that? One of the things that we've talked about a couple times on this show and a couple of other conversations we've had over the years is really I filter everything through the masculine and feminine energy, right? Like, where is that coming from? And where do we learn that, right? Where do we learn that, oh, she loves to fight versus she is open to being the leader in conflict resolution, right? The fight is that masculine energy. The conflict resolution is the female energy. We all have all of it. And I've been reading a lot on the power with others versus the power over others. And conflict resolution really is that power with each other. It's saying you do have a story and a filter and an experience, and so do you. And people don't get into a fight in legal battles because they think they're wrong.
Ever.
They always are convicted that their experience is the one that needs reparation, right? That's why they're there. And so I love hearing all of these thought patterns weaving you to this space, right? So how do we, there's a couple of questions in the comments on this, but really, how do we become more comfortable with conflict? Like, really, and Stacey Soleil, I think, actually has a full question. How did you become comfortable with conflict and not fearing the potential backlash? Like, how, because this is a lot of women and men, but more women than men fight the crucial conversation because they don't want the conflict.
I guess I would first I'd ask a question with a question, which I'm not trying to do on purpose, but it's what's so wrong about backlash, right? What's so wrong about feedback? Sometimes it's not the, tit for tat, it's the ongoing conversation and the ongoing conflict that creates a resolution and creates the story. Like, I nothing has ever been like, I hate to bring it back to a bar fight, but here I am again in New York and it's coming out. But is not just someone throws a punch and then there's conflict. Like conflict can be ongoing. Conflict can be, I mean, it can be hundreds and thousands of years of ongoing conflict. So I think I guess what I was most, again, I go back to the first answer, which is curious. It's not about winning in the conflict. It's about the curiosity of where the resolution lies. And it may not lie with me. It may lie with me acquiescing. It may lie with us coming to some sort of hybrid agreement on both sides are right. So if you go in with looking at conflict as a win or a loss, then you will always be afraid of conflict because either you are winning or you are losing.
Yeah,
But
that's a zero sum.
right? It is. But if you go in truly like through this conflict, through this conversation is resolution and an answer, then you're not scared of it, right? You're not scared of like, wow, I just walked away learning something.
You're not scared of the bar fight.
No, you're not scared of like, even if you were totally wrong, you're like, thank God we had this. Now I can correct myself for being wrong tomorrow and the next day with the same opinion. So I think I also want to bring in, this part of this conversation about money, and we're going there, ladies.
We're going there next. So go.
I segue into this because I so believe in the power of taking money to invest in yourself. We'll invest it in our health, we'll invest it in our kids, we'll invest it in our home, we'll invest it in, financial management, whatever it may be. But if I look, they always say, if you want to know your highest values, look at your bank account, right? Look at where the bulk of your money goes, and you will find out very quickly where your high values are.
Groceries.
So, I mean, but what whittles down groceries? I mean, groceries is health, right? You're probably cutting it into like whole food,
Or
like,
organic.
right? But one of my highest source of what I spend money on is on education. It's for my children, it's for tutors, it's for training, it's for coaching, it's for school. It has always 100% been in education. It is Audible, Kindle, right? But if you sum it all up, it's like bing, 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 bing. You have hit your 32% of your income marker. And
yes.
But one of the things I would say is it always shocks me. And it's one of the interview questions when I bring on a newer agent is, what are you willing to invest in your business? What are you willing to invest in yourself? If you won't sign up to read sources, if you won't sign up for publications and memberships, if you won't sign up for going to conferences and collaborating and networking and learning, if you won't sign up for continuing education and coaching, I don't necessarily know if we're going to have a high value on when I'll give you my time. Because my time goes there, and my time goes to people that want to learn, right? And they want to go next level in their mind, in their curiosity, in who they evolve into. And so it's a distinguisher, and it's just one of those things I think, if we're going to talk about funds, and not that everybody needs to put their funds towards education, but you do need to, if you care about your business, invest not just your time, but also your money into it.
Yeah. Well, and I think where we spend our money, if it's not values aligned, in other words, you value education, and so you spending money there and you investing time there makes sense for you. And that's why on Monday, after a long frickin' day and a long class, you're dancing in the streets, because it's all feeding and honoring your values. Right. And so if all of our spend is where if our money isn't telling us, what's the saying? If we're not telling our money where to go, our money is spending itself, right? And that never feels good. And so let's dig into the money. Let's dig into because you purchased. So let's let you tell that story. So Red Oak, how did you come to become the CEO and owner? Did you buy it? What was that process?
Well, part of it I would say was, it's not by default because everything kind of goes as it should, but I was working there as a manager, and I was always a really bad employee until I was a good employee. So if I was not, it was like when I was a student, I was a really not a good student until I loved what I was doing. And then I was like a straight A. But once I really cared about a job, like it didn't matter if I owned it or it was just those people, that industry, that worked for me. And that's what happened when I came into real estate. But when I found the original R04 and I, started working for them, it didn't matter if I was a manager, a sales manager, I didn't matter what my title was. It just mattered that I was like deeply committed to their mission, that cause. We were values aligned. Absolutely. Like probably within the end of the first interview, I was like, oh my God, I just found like my forever home. Right. And so I had this great relationship with them. And then ultimately, the industry was turning, we were going into the recession. They were looking for a new owner. They approached me and then I took that on. I wasn't like, I want to own, I got to be very clear. And I've told this story a lot of times. I did not want to be an owner. I did not want to be CEO. It was not a career path. I had a 6-month-old and a 2-year-old, 2.5-year-old. It was not like, but it was this opportunity to get deeper into something that I cared about. It was not a blueprint. I wasn't like, oh my God, I'm 31. I haven't hit it wasn't any of that, but I was deeply committed to it. I also did something that I would say everybody needs to do if they want to go into this path is you got to take a risk. I'd never owned a company before. As a matter of fact, I was a daughter of an entrepreneur who I saw slave away, and I understood what came with ownership. And I knew I was not going to eat or, have a lot of time off for a very long time. I saw what it was. I had no illusions that, entrepreneurship was like
Freedom.
my millions. When do I go out on my yacht like that? Yeah, no, like that was, so it was I had no, delusional thoughts about what it would be, but I felt very called to do it. But I also, at the same point, I had to put my money where my mouth was. I had to take what cash I had and put it into that and basically believe in the fact that I would be able to put a multiplier on that at some point with my sweat equity. But it was both. It wasn't like, here's this thing, it's a gift, take it. It wasn't a gift. I had to buy it. And it was a great price. It was fair. It was good people. It was good terms. It was all, but it was still a risk. It was a great recession. Everybody was going bankrupt and foreclosing, and I went and bought a real estate company. It was a risk. In hindsight, it was, a great opportunity, and it set me on the course. But at the time, it didn't show up with a bow on it. Right. It wasn't all in glossy paper. And I was like, wow, this gift. Oh my God, I can't wait to open it. I was like, oh my God, what the hell? It was not a guarantee. There's no, great option at the end. I could have failed miserably. As a matter of fact, everything around me was like the carcasses of real estate companies. So I was like, it wasn't like it was a weird time. But that's my point, is it doesn't show up like that. It doesn't show up looking all pretty and perfect. And you're like, oh my God, I have exactly $545,000 to invest in this to get X. Like, it doesn't look like that. It never does.
Right.
So I'm waiting for that.
Who says it looks like that? Because I know it doesn't look like that. But like there are people like in textbooks say it looks like that. Tell your teachers.
That's so well. That kind of reminds me of Terry King's story in 2019 when she was on stage and she was talking about how like when the shizzle is hitting the fan, when the market is going down, that's when she's always looking around for the opportunities, right? Do you remember her story about that? Right? Like it was when everyone's running out the door, she's running in going, okay, can I buy your company now? Because it's worth the risk.
It only is worth the risk too if you're willing to put in the time and energy at that point, right? I mean, it's never going to be like you're like, oh my God, I got this for penny stocks, and then I turned around and flipped it. I mean, we're talking about it's talking about a different level of risk here. Yeah.
Oh my God.
What about the lessons? Like, if you could do it all over again, like, tell us about the biggest.
Well, so this is the funny part. If I could do it all over again, I wouldn't have gotten to the place that I was, right? Or here right now. Like, I'd never be here. I had to go through, it's like the Odyssey here, right? I'm like, no one, Oedipus did not get this great story written about him without going through a lot of stuff. I'm just rereading that, audioing it. But it's just like, oh my God,
like, what?
Everyone wants it to be like yacht sailing in Ibiza. It's not that. And thank God it's not, because you won't have a company at the end of that. I think some of the trials and tribulations, some of the pain and the suffering is what creates incredible sustainability for good
Mm.
companies. It's
And the
because it wasn't.
conflict, going back to the conflict and resolutions.
It's the grit. It's the grit that you find at the bottom when you hit the bottom. You're
Yes.
like,
Well,
"Woo!"
the grit makes us shiny, right? I mean, if
Right.
we leverage it in the right way, I do want to get into the financial management and the awareness and the pitfalls that come when we aren't paying attention to our finances. And when we were discussing where this conversation could go today, and yes, we want to discuss the leadership journey, but we also want to discuss the valley that you went through as a leader, right? That deep, kind of dark, kind of danky, and you're still here, right? So there's victory, don't worry, but let's talk about the story and how your connection to the finances at your company wasn't always at the forefront.
Yeah, because it's a cautionary tale, but it's a good one. In hindsight, I always say it was like the best money I've spent. Talk about a PhD and paying attention to your finances. So, I won't go into the gritty detail, but suffice to say that I think this is something that a lot of people suffer with when they're very astute at one part of the business, especially when you get accolades for that and it's clear that it's what you're good at, right? It just comes so naturally, it's easy. So what we tend to do when that happens, I think, and I think this is a bit of a generalization, but you probably read this everywhere, I'm not the first to say it, is we tend to gravitate towards what comes naturally, right? What Not everyone's out there looking for like high conflict and just like, I need another challenge. I mean, there's definitely people that are looking for it, but on a whole, we tend to just go to the place where I'm really good at this. This comes naturally. This is the asset that I could bring to the company. We define ourselves by that role. And I was guilty of that. I was in a place where I love people. I liked strategy. I was good at the front of the house. And in real estate industry, there's really the front of the house and the back of the house. And the front of the house is recruiting and branding and marketing and culture and what to me was the fun stuff. And the back of the house was finances and operations and God, compliance and all the things that I was like, what? Like this is not, I'm not right. I'm not into that part.
The spreadsheets.
Yeah, spreadsheets. This is before Google Docs, but with P&Ls and just making sure everything was together, balances, budgeting, all that stuff. So it was very easy given the choice, front of the house or back of the house. I was like, front of the house. I will do all the pitching, give me that part. This is cool. And I did that. And then I really just relied on the back of the house to do the back of the house and, trusted, I'm not someone that didn't look at my books. I've always been on top of knowing like where do things stand, what does that mean, but I didn't understand really the intricacies of it. And I would say right now, nor do I now. I don't certainly have a PhD in finance. I still have very, very talented people that work with me and explain it all. But one thing I will say is I know my books, I know my numbers, and I have respect for them. And so my point here is I wasn't paying attention to that part. And I was able to validate while I'm not paying attention to that part because that's not my thing. I don't like numbers.
Yeah, the justifying of it.
Yeah, totally. That's not my thing. Here's my skill. Here's my value. Here's what I bring to the company. This other person will take care of those things. Well, two things happen always with that. One is you may run into the clutches of someone that will take advantage of you. And we have seen it across every industry in so many partnerships and so many organizations where it's like gone unchecked, someone gets in and they take advantage. Yes, that's unfortunate running into that someone, right? But even if it's not that someone, even if someone doesn't come in and actually go out of their way to manipulate, lie, and steal, you still have to pay attention to your books. You still have to pay attention to the finances. And one of the most important reasons I can say that matters, separate of the fact that you could face financial ruin or embezzlement or destruction or whatever it may be, is that if you care about the sustainability of whatever it is you're doing, whether you care about the sustainability of maintaining your house, your children's education, your marriage, your company, if you honor it, then you will honor how to keep it sustainable. You will honor the money that flows into it and out of it. You will have respect for it. If you don't, If you dismiss it, if you put it in somebody else's hands, believe me, it'll come back to you. And everything that you wanted to keep sustainable and everything that you said you were standing for could potentially collapse. And I don't want to sound like eerie about that, but there is no excuse to not having good money management. There is no excuse to saying, I don't like that part. Well, then find a way to like it. Find a way to tie that money to your highest value and you will pay attention to it. Find a way that, like, if this thing got into trouble because I wasn't paying attention to this, how would I feel? And what would I do? And why do I need to have that lesson? Why can't I see that coming? So I say this because so many folks, especially women, will say, that's not what I handle. That's not what I like. I don't understand it. You know, and I think it's getting to a place where you must understand it. And if
Yeah.
you don't understand it, it's okay to ask 2,000 questions until you do.
Yeah.
I'm sure my accountants think I'm a moron. I'll be like, I still don't get it. Say it again. Draw it for me. Break it down into small baby, like I want to understand it. And I don't have to master it, but I do have to understand it. So we could dive into that more, but
I have a follow-up to that. I think I love how you framed it, because it's about honoring it so that you can protect, right? And that's speaking the female language, right? It really is. But I think that on the flip side of that, like I absolutely agree with what you're saying. I think you always have to respect the books. I love that. It's true. But at the same time, I think what women do as leaders, as owners, is they want to do it all, right? Or they feel that they are pressured to do it all. They feel that they have to do it all. They feel that they have to do it all. And cook dinner and take care of the kids and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, the list goes on. So where's the balance? Like, what would you suggest? Because you do it all. Like, you're the owner. So how do you balance being too controlling versus making sure you honor and respect?
well, it's just getting to a place where you know your numbers. Like, I don't put my numbers into my P&L. I don't sign, well, I digitally sign every check, but I put thresholds in everything where one person does this, or whether it comes down to a variance or a commission or the price we charge for things, negotiating with a vendor, negotiating with the guy that put in the I just got new gutters. Like, at a certain point, like, you got to get bids, you got to do the process. But here's the deal: you don't have to do everything. You don't have to do everything, but your job is to make sure that you put a process in place and that you check on it, right? That you go back and you check on it.
Right.
There's no possible way that even frankly I could put, all the revenue that goes in and out through my books or through my life and know every last drop of it. But I am responsible for making sure that I have the right people in there. I am responsible for making sure that I have cut and closed all those little loopholes and put systems in place. And then I am responsible for meeting and reviewing that at a certain time every month. There is no way that at the end of the year, you should look at that and say, wow, I'm surprised. Right. I mean, your job, or I look at it as my job as CEO, is I have got to see it, not only what's coming, I've got to see what's not coming. Right. I've got to see what hasn't even shown up yet on the horizon. That's the responsibility of that role.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the responsibility of the CEO's role, frankly. The owner's role could be very different. Right. But the CEO and the owner is a different sort of hybrid thing. But knowing where those numbers are, just close your books every month. If you can't do that, have somebody that does. Put a budget together, hold yourself to a budget, watch where you're leaking. And never, ever, ever trust anyone entirely. It doesn't mean that you can't have a great relationship, but have a third-party auditing system. I mean, it's a business, because ultimately, unless you have personally verified that and done it, then you don't know if it's true, right? You should never give, unless you've actually done it yourself. So then you've got to just say, is there something else I can put into place that is a third-party process? And how do I respect that process?
Well, and is that, so I think when I hear you say at the beginning, like, make sure you've got the right person in the role, is that how you would suggest that we know the right person is in the role when we have that third? I mean, because we can have great relationships with people and all of a sudden realize they've been stabbing us in the back for, 6 months or 6 years. So how
Well, the
is,
right, yeah, Deborah, the right role is not necessarily just with one person. That great person that you have a great relationship with, it could be the person that is taking care of your books, right? You always have a third party auditor. You always have somebody else that is secondary who has no relationship, who is clearly, this is about the numbers. All right.
yes.
Or having a, whether it's an accountant or a good attorney to look at a contract, right? Like there's always that third person because relationships can get messy and they can get very emotional and they can get very tied to certain things that it's just bring in that other person and don't ever feel bad. Please trust me on this. Never apologize for wanting a third set of eyes, ever.
100%. You know, we've talked, Deborah and I had these conversations just this week about how, and I'm not going to stereotype, but it is a female trait, how relationships kind of bleed into friendships, bleed into business, and you kind of have this like flowy, like maybe
The
even
lines are blurred.
false sense of security because you have this friendship, but it is business. I love that you said that. It's business and have that third pair of eyes.
And it's also about the people in your business. I mean, when I realized like
For
my
sure.
relationship with one other person had an ability, for better or for worse, to affect hundreds of people,
Yeah.
thousands of clients. It is my responsibility to have an objective person if it's going to affect that many people, right? Like I can't let my emotional, like, I trust you, I affect that many people without some sort of spotter. Like it's not how it should be done.
Well, and herein lies the foundational reason I believe most small business owners don't do that. And it's because the funds that it costs to have that third party do that audit.
Yeah.
And this is why the money management is so important for everyone who's listening, who's watching the replay, who's what right here with us, right? It's having those reserves, having that third party auditor in your budget is so important because you never want that, say, $500 for somebody to do a quick audit get in the way of a $500,000 court battle.
It's
With the investment.
once it's a system, it's just an objective secondary system that there is no emotion about. It has nothing to do with you. It's just put this in. It's a safe place for both of us. It's not up for discussion. And you're right, people cut corners. And then the other thing that I've seen, and I hate this about humans, but we do it, is where a lot of times, and there may be a lot of women on this call or a lot of people on this call that have been put in a manipulation where it's like you don't understand it, or when you start to ask questions about it, or you may see something that's off and you question it and then you get manipulated to that you don't understand it.
Oh, the gaslighting. Oh, drives me nuts.
I didn't want to call it gaslighting, but yes, it's call it gaslighting, because
Or,
even if
or mansplaining, right? I mean,
the fact of the matter is, even if they're not trying to, embezzle or steal from you, they could still be making you feel like, I don't get this and I'm embarrassed. Like, you know what? You don't have to get it, but it still needs to be honored that your questions are answered and there is some sort of explanation around it, even if you don't get it. So don't get caught up in that, because that could often be a manipulation in trying to make sure you don't get it and that you remain not getting it.
Right. Exactly. That could be a tactic that they're employing to, get you off the scent because you feel embarrassed. And, I was actually just listening to a podcast a couple of days ago. I'll find the link and find which show, because of course I listen to hundreds now. And it was talking about how there's, especially in the world of solopreneurship. So when in this case, in our community, we'd be talking about a female realtor who decides to become a brokerage, and it starts out being herself, like me, myself, and I. Maybe there's a buyer's agent, maybe there's an assistant, but their brokerage is starting out as a solopreneur environment where they feel like they have to know everything. And if they don't know everything, they cannot approach the conversation because they don't want to be perceived as weak. And how these kind of conversations that we're having today is the excellent reminder, because even if you've been in business for 5 years or 10 years, we will never know everything about everything. We will
And you'll
never.
never be able to go to your next stage if you
Yes.
have to hold it to like must get A's on every course of every, study in order to like level up. No, right, you really don't.
Right.
The
But
perfection.
it also, I would caution too, it's also that you don't just get to say, I don't like it. That's the
Yep.
other thing, because at the same time, we're like, I need to know everything and we're going a little too much. Sometimes we can get a little too dismissive, like that's somebody else's job and I don't want to do that and I don't like it. I just never taught that. I mean, how many of your kids are getting money management classes in school? I know mine aren't, right? Or how many people do you know that are in college and getting money management? Nothing. We don't talk about it. When we talk about it,
Taboo.
it's taboo or it's greedy, right? Or
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It comes with these wrappings and layers of like, oh, if you're talking about money, somehow you just want to earn so much of it, and that the pure desire to actually have money management is somehow of greed. No, it really isn't. And if you approach it that way, again, it will come in and leave your life if you
Yes.
push it away. So
Well, there was a really interesting conversation over on another group that I moderate. And this gal was asking questions of the women in the community saying, well, it was actually kind of a plea. She is a money manager. And so she was doing this like kind of like the future generations class where she was like, okay, register your kids, come for a day, it's starting online. And eventually they want to be in person where they're teaching children money management. And parents were only signing up their boys. Not one girl was registered for the class. And she was like, what am I doing wrong? Like how, like I'm a woman even. Like she was thinking she was only going to get girls and not one girl was registered. And so this is actually.
you should have been like, you can't get in unless you bring your
well, there is a boys manage the money. Boy, the husband, I mean, let me just get a little personal. So we're going through this with my parents, the parental unit. My mom and dad are having these arguments around my dad's has managed the money their entire marriage, and she doesn't know the passwords, and she doesn't know how many credit cards they have, and she doesn't know, I mean, all these things she doesn't know, and she's like, I need to know, and he's like, but I'm in charge. It's this interesting energy.
So you're touching on something though, because money is power.
Yes.
It has been. It always has been, whether you have a lot of it or a little of it, or whatever amount it is. The pure ability to understand it, manipulate it, put passwords on it, not talk about it, whatever it may be, it's a power conversation.
Yes.
And so when you're talking about inequality with money, well, you're also talking about inequality with power. I mean,
Yes.
we go back to the beginning of this conversation. When you are able to grow financial wealth, pass it down to the next generation, educate, different races, females, whatever, you're talking about extending power.
Yes.
And knowledge. And not everyone wants that, right? So
well, the people with power over certainly don't.
Especially when it's a lot of power, especially when it comes into that, I mean, into those realms of where it shows up. So, but I think I do challenge that, running a business cannot just be all about the fun parts of marketing and hiring and putting your name on it. When somebody says like, I don't want to understand that, I would not challenge them on having to know everything by any way, shape, or form, but I will challenge them on saying, if you don't care about those books, if you don't care about the way it comes in and the way it leaves, you will be shaken awake at a certain point.
Yes.
If you are in business.
Yes.
Hands down, it's coming.
It's coming. Yeah. Well, and that's a really good flag. I think that's the good reminder, right? If this is self-talk, right? So ladies and gentlemen, if you have at any point in your business career said, I don't do that. No, I'm not a numbers person. I don't do spreadsheets. That is your flag. Like, you might not want to do them, but you need to know them. I think that's such a great reminder. And the last thing before we get before we close is one of the interesting things that we found in the community is women actually not charging enough or anything at all for their oh, shocking, and this breaking ourselves open, right, and realizing our value in our knowledge and in our wisdom, and that it is worthy. And I know you have spoken about this before, about women recognizing their worth, so I'd love to hear you kind of look into the camera and fire us up with getting worthy, ladies.
About charging?
Just about knowing your worth, right? So you're talking about making sure you've got money inside your organization, but that you have intrinsic value to have your own money.
Well, so here's one thing I would say, and worth comes in two forms. I think one is obviously in the ability to create a sustainable, profitable business. There's nothing wrong with that. There is something very great with that. And when challenged on that, right, is just to remember what drives you in that, what drives you to have started that business, grow that business, and most importantly, sustain it. And I can never say what that worth would be for that individual woman, but it source it. The second thing I think is, and this would be a whole other conversation, is just the ability to use your voice. I think one of the things that I've seen is the intimidation in being a female business owner, or just even a business owner. I'm sure it happens with guys too. I just don't, I'm not a guy business owner, so I don't know. But it's just like speaking up. When you speak up sometimes on something like, I disagree, or I disagree with a model, or I disagree with a practice, or I disagree with, whatever may be going on, the backlash sometimes is phenomenal. And what I would say is, don't shutter your voice or minimize it because someone doesn't like that you disagreed. Like, I spent half my time, not half, but probably a percentage of it, sitting in the hallway in my Catholic school because I spoke up of what I disagreed with. All my life. And that's why I have to get my education at 47. I'm like, I gotta go back to school. I spent half of it in a hallway. But the truth
Go down the street and tell those nuns. Tell them right now.
I make sure to give them a donation every year. I'm like, thank you, ladies, for locking me out. You put me into sales. I was always waiting for someone to pass me by in the hallway to talk. But here's my point is also using that voice to speak up. And that's kind of what I love to see with some of these leaders right now, is that it's not just, when companies are making statements about where they're going to put their money, or what value they're going to align with, and they're going to take the heat if they pull away. That's kind of the one thing I love about business right now, and be one of those businesses that does speak up. And even if there is a repercussion for speaking up, even if there is a repercussion for calling something out, I'm a huge believer in it's okay to disagree. It's not okay to pick meaningless fights, but it is okay to disagree, because on the other side of that stuff is some pretty good business, pretty good conversations. But yeah,
you rock that. You live that out loud, Vanessa. I mean, we see it. We see you doing that.
So I'd like to encourage everyone to do that.
Yes, encourage everyone. You're leading us by example. I want to make sure that we also, as we close out, we talk about how, because you've been able to take control of the finances, because you've been focused on it and not afraid of it, and realized you couldn't run from it, so you're embracing it. You've actually been able to put together a new collaboration with another woman in business that called Enhance. And that actually is something that makes your business more attractive and profitable. So tell us about that.
Yeah, that is a really, I'll sum it up. I know we only have a few minutes left, but it's a really exciting story, because it's really kind of this great meeting of the minds of two women that run completely different businesses. So Jen Montague Clark is another female business owner here in Oakland and the East Bay, and she was creating beautiful projects. Just she's incredibly talented in ways that I could only bow down to. And designer, just a knowledge of construction. She's got her general contractor's license. She's put together a team. She does prep and she does staging, but she puts together these beautiful projects. And she approached me during this time when we were like, how do we put this together? And I was trying to do it myself, and she was trying to do a bit of like real estate, and I was trying to do a little construction. And then we were kind of like, we're like cereal and milk. We're like, why don't we just get in the bowl together? Why don't we just do this together? Why are we trying to do two opposing businesses? And so we've put this together, and we're at the beginning stages of it. But I think what is so amazing was we took the best of what we were both doing and kind of put it together we're not one business out, we're just a collaboration. It's almost like when, like, I don't know, Rihanna and Eminem make a song together. I know you hate them, but like, it's like two people, totally different styles. They come together and they create this great song. We are just collaborating right now. And, but it's put together a totally unique offering within our marketplace of my great agents with their great clients needing this resource. And then, Jen and the home company's great staging and their incredible design. And then what we did have to do, though, because we needed to figure this part out, is guess what? We had to find financing, right? Oh my God, we couldn't put it together. It was a great idea, but we were like, who's going to pay for this? And so it forced us both to, it was actually the funniest part about it was we were meeting with these two attorneys, and I had to get the financing and Jen had to get some licensing, and we were working together, and they were like, they were being very attorney about it. They're like, oh my God. And they were great. They were like, you guys, I think you're a little bit, you're moving a little fast here. Like, you've got to get this in place and this in place and this. And we were like, nah, we'll figure that part out. Just write up that contract. We got this idea. You put together all the legal paperwork on it, and then we'll go get those things. And they were like, you're gonna go find all that. You think you could do that? We're like, don't worry about that part. That's the business part. You guys come up with how to keep us out of jail. And, and they did. They put together this great contract, and then we went and it was relationships. I had great help from my good friend Mars, and he put me in touch with the right people, and I put together the proposals, and I had to put together the systems and build it all out. But where there was a will, there was a way, and it was my first time pitching for millions of dollars to put together a credit line to source this great business idea, and we did it. We did it, and the product is beautiful. And it's, it's like a bit of a fairy tale story in getting two businesses to come together. And the great part is, what can we do next? Now that we did this, we're both like, okay, how do we get it to grow? How do we get it into more homes? How do we get it into more agents' hands? So it's a really exciting, and it's really, what's so great about it is it's really beautiful on top of it. It's a thoughtful, beautiful business.
Where do we go to?
Yeah.
So it's only offered through Red Oak, and Homeco, but it's basically Enhance is paying. It's ultimately it is a prep and staging pre-sale product that is available for our agents at Red Oak, and it's paid for out of close of escrow. So there's no financing, there's no invoicing, there's no messy. It's a collaboration between the two partners and our financing partner to take it all out of close of escrow. And they look great. So you can go to the Red Oak website, and it's under Enhance. You can watch our video. I can send it to you afterwards, but
I just dropped it in the link.
Awesome.
I just dropped the link. Yeah.
But it was, I have to say, it was probably one of my more fun business offerings. Yeah. And it's got its challenges in putting it together, but it's been really exciting to do it with another really impressive, powerful human being. Jen's fantastic. And so is her entire crew over at the Homeco.
Congratulations.
Thanks for giving me my little platform on that, because it's fun.
That's huge.
Yeah, it's going to be a great offering.
I love it. I'm so excited. Well, this is our least favorite part.
This is fun. I feel like we were just kind of hanging
for hours.
I know.
Stay on. Let's grab the wine. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Okay, so last words of wisdom for the community, at least last words for this talk.
I don't know. We covered a lot. I mean, I would just say go boldly in whatever step you're taking. As I've said, I am taking huge next steps in my career and in my life as still as the owner and CEO of Red Oak, but just you never stop evolving. There's always the next step and the next step, and then the going wider. And I just would say, wherever you are, be bold about wherever you're going, and you're gonna have to take risks. You're gonna have to learn about those finances. You're gonna have to collaborate and get together with new people. But that's the beauty of especially our industry and a business. That's the wonderful part of business.
I love it. So beautiful. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I think collectively we have been inspired. We've heard all sorts of great stories. I don't know if you saw it, Vanessa, but Tammy Bunnell was actually a part of a conversation last week, and she actually has a desire to be in a bar fight at some point. So, I think Sarah and I have officially learned that we will go to bars now with Vanessa and Tammy. Because we are. I find it so interesting that 2 weeks in a row we're talking about bar fights.
Oh my God. This is awesome. I did not see that. I did not know that, but I guess when we all get out of this thing, we're going to go bar hopping.
We're going to go to bar hopping and bar fights. However, really, joking aside, the loving time that you've invested in this community today, the advice that you have shared, we so appreciate it. And you'll see there's so much love for you in the chat stream today. Lots of people saying congratulations. We wish you so much success with everything happening with Jen and Enhance and your conflict resolution education. And I look forward to joyfully being a recipient of this amazing knowledge that you are soaking in as well. So we would love to have you back for another conversation when you're, maybe another year into this program, so that we can hear what you're learning. Because of course, who doesn't want to learn how to be a better conflict resolution expert?
It makes us better.
Yes. All right, everyone. Here we are. Thank you for hanging out with us a little bit extra today. We went a little bit long, but we warned you at the beginning. we had a feeling. And there wasn't even any wine involved. All right, everyone. We will see you next Friday. But remember, between now and then is the first Wednesday of the month, Coffee and Conversations with our very own Leslie. She's got a guest coming on. You don't want to miss that. And then, of course, we'll see you here next Friday. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.